Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming along today for another live stream. I'm going to try and make it a weekly thing. Yeah, thanks for coming on, everyone. I'm just messing around here. I should get someone else to do this stuff, sorting out all the comment stuff. Yep. Evening, everyone who's commented there. Hold on for a second. Yeah, it's been quite an interesting week, really. Monday, I managed to get on James O'Brien's show on LBC. For those who don't know James O'Brien, he's like a far leftist. He's a champagne socialist, really. He goes on. He's got his own show on LBC. He goes on other things. He's wrote the foreword for at least one, probably a couple of Hope Not Hate books. He likes to take the. I'm a bit out of focus. I don't know what I'm doing now. He likes to take the piss out of working class people. Whenever he's talking about working class people, he puts on a funny accent that he wouldn't dream of doing for Pakistanis or Jamaicans or anything. But because we're white working class, we're open game for him. So and also as well, he goes on about all this socialism and things like that, and talking about how people shouldn't blame immigrants for things. It's like wealthy tax avoiders. I don't know if that's his exact words or not, but a typical lefty thing that we should be taxing the rich more, which I actually agree with personally, but you need to close loopholes before you do it. And you've also got to cut spending on stupid things as well. But one of the ironies of it is, and this has been going on for years now, for at least 7 years, maybe longer, that one of LBC's main sponsors is a accountants firm called Barnes Rolfe, and they used to actually advertise on there as that they were tax avoidance specialists. But I think they've decided to tone that down now with the adverts, and they just say business accountants specialists or something like that. But basically, they're tax avoidance specialists. So whatever James O'Brien says about being a socialist and I don't know what I've done with this camera. This is terrible. I'm just going to try and sort something out with this camera. Lock it off and turn it on again. Not too close to it. I'm not too far away from it. I was probably too close. If I'll sit back a bit, it should be a bit better. I'm sorry about that. Any more? So I managed to get on his show. He was talking about, again, he was laughing at patriots and saying that the people complaining about white working class kids underachieving in school are the same people that were saying years ago that when blacks were underachieving, it was all their fault. But I went on there. He cut me off before I had a chance properly, but I was trying to point out a load of schemes that are deliberately there to help specifically young black lads, and that's why whites are falling behind, because you've got upper class people who've obviously get better educations, their parents can pay for tutors, they've got better life prospects in the first place. And then when you get down to working class levels, you've got all these different groups, blacks, Asians and Jews as well. They've all got specific groups to help them out, and there's nothing specifically for white working class lads. Teachers are under extra pressure to help the blacks and that, so that because they come across as racist if they just treated everybody equally, and then the blacks did a lot worse than the whites, which I personally believe would be the case, then it makes it look as if the teachers are racist and they get in trouble with their own union and with the Ofsted and whoever else like that. So I wanted to point that out. And then a couple of days later, I was listening to Sheila Fogarty. This is on Wednesday now, yesterday. And she was talking about is there free speech in Britain, and do people get their free speech stopped? And I've recently lost a job at Imperial College in London for being chairman of the National Front, and I've worked there for over 15 years. And then and I've always kept my politics separate from work, but somebody found out, and then there was a bit of a hoo-ha, and they said they didn't want me working there anymore. I was self-employed, so I didn't really have any comebacks on that. But again, that was down to freedom. Well, in my opinion, it should be freedom of speech, freedom of association, within reason, as long as you're not breaking the law or bringing whatever company you're working for into disrepute. You should be allowed to do whatever you like outside of work. And I never previously mentioned that I worked at Imperial College, even though I worked there for 15 years, and I was quite in the know about the place. Or still am quite in the know about the place. I never mentioned on any National Front things or any other patriotic things about working at Imperial College. I didn't actually work for Imperial College directly. I was, like I said, I was self-employed. But yeah, so but then they've also got there, they put up leaflets. There's people there from Stand Up to Racism, and they put up posters, not about me. I don't think they even knew I was working there, because I was working hands-on. I was working down in the boiler house and in plant rooms and things like that. So and I was wearing scruffy work clothes. So the sort of posh, snobby type people from Stand Up to Racism and that didn't even notice that I was there. But again, they was able to hand out leaflets at work and put posters up promoting, in my opinion, violence. Like the Tommy Robinson protests, they put posters up about those, urging people to oppose them, and they're quite open about the fact that they want to attack people. I don't think they actually do want to attack people when other people have got the numbers. But the Tommy Robinson thing in a couple of weeks, they're well outnumber the Stand Up to Racism, and the Stand Up to Racism won't want to have a go at them, but they'll probably pretend they want to have a go at them from the other side of the police. So anyway, I was quite surprised to have got on to LBC twice the same week, especially the second time. The guy who answered the phone said, "Hello, Tony." So yeah, they'd obviously, I had to tell him my name and that I was in Belfast on Monday, and then it must be stored on their computer. So I would have thought there would have been a black mark against my name, and I wouldn't have got on there. But I managed to get on there. We're thinking about it, and perhaps it might be a data protection thing. They might not be able. Like, I used to try and phone in all the time years ago, but I'd never get on. They'd have my name and they go, "No, we're not letting you on." And but I'm assuming now with data protection laws, they can't put anything too derogatory down there. So as long as I haven't sworn or done anything too bad, I suppose they can't. I could be wrong about that. It's just surmising, but that's one idea about that. Is there anything else with the comments? Quite a few people are saying evening. Set miles away from your computer. I should put another little table with a thing. I'm looking after my missus' dog at the moment, so or our dog, should I say? And if I put anything on a separate table, it'd probably just get knocked over. It'd be a catastrophe in the middle of the meeting. I'd like to say a couple of things about Palestinian Action being banned. Personally, I don't know whether they should have been banned or not. They certainly did more than National Action did to get banned. And then you've got all these people that went out and deliberately got themselves arrested last weekend, and I guessed it before it actually happened that it'd be mainly elderly people and disabled people, because they do that for the look of it, don't they? Because it looks bad on the police that they're dragging away an old lady or an old man or a disabled person, and then they play on it and things like that. They probably need medication that they haven't got with them and whatever else like that they do. On the whole, I quite support the Palestinians. Definitely, I support them over the actual Palestinians. That is not Palestinian Action or any of these Reds that knock about with them. I think it's the Reds that give them a bad name. I think you see a lot of these incidents that happen, and they've got the Palestinian flag up the wrong way. Most of them are white and look like they haven't had a wash or whatever like that, and things like that. So yeah, I kind of guessed the kind of people that would be getting arrested. It would be like particularly vulnerable people that didn't have work the next couple of days and things like that. So and they went there specifically to get arrested. So they can't really complain about that. And all the people complaining about it, would they be complaining if it was the same? If it was old people or disabled people that were waving National Action or UDA or any banned organisation that they don't like, holding up signs in support of them? They wouldn't. They'd say it's a clear-cut case of breaking the law and they deserve to go to jail. So really, I've got no sympathy for the people. Nobody's stopping them from protesting for Palestine. There's other organisations that protest for Palestine, and they can carry on protesting like that. They broke into a military Air Force base and they've damaged aircraft. So that is an act of terrorism. I know obviously it was only a few of them that did it, not the whole organisation. And also, apparently, they were throwing things at people. I don't know if it's fireworks or whatever they're throwing. They were trying to attack people, although people had to run off. I don't know what people are doing running off when they're meant to be guarding. I don't know if they was meant to be guarding or if they were just working at the Air Force thing. I'd suggest they probably shouldn't have run off. To be fair, I think they was actually quite lucky not to get shot. When I was in the army and we used to guard places, we probably would have shot them. But there again, sometimes we weren't carrying live ammo, so we might not been able to shoot them. And the same with whoever was guarding that, they might have not had live ammo. It's actually quite scary, some of the things in the British Army, where you see someone with rifles, well, back in my day anyway, and you just assume that they were loaded, they'd have the magazine on there, but quite often they weren't. I think you must have gone by like intelligence reports and things. Like a lot of the time they were loaded, but then at other times they weren't. It all depended where and when we was doing guard. So they haven't done themselves any favours, and they should just expect to be arrested. I don't know how anyone can really defend them. And they try and say that they're getting stopped from supporting Palestine, but none of the other, most, obviously Hamas and that banned as well, but most of the Palestinian groups aren't banned, and you can still just wave a Palestinian flag without being part of any particular group. So they've got nothing to complain about there. Like I said, I think it's terrible what's happening in Palestine. The only reason I'm not more vocal supporting them is that some of the scumbags they've got with them. Even before the last lot kicked off, around probably about three or 4 years ago, I popped along. There was one not too far from from Imperial College, because the Israeli embassy is just along the road from Imperial College. So they had a protest one day, and I popped along after work, and I was threatened by some people from Stand Up to Racism, by that Lewis Nielsen. I don't know if you've seen him. He's a right wally. He's in some of my videos. And when it's their things, I'd stay around and antagonise them for a while. But I thought, because it was a Palestinian thing, I just left. I thought it's not worth. I didn't want to disrupt it. I'd disrupt Stand Up to Racism, UAF things all day long, but I didn't want to disrupt the Palestinian things. That's about it. Has anyone got anything on Palestine? On the Palestinian Action? Sorry, I'm gonna have to look at these things. So I haven't really been keeping up with them. Did you do a tour of We Ulster when you served? No, I didn't. I'm just going to change the signs of these. I'm going to try and change the size of these. I know how to do it, but I can't see the thing on there now. I'll leave it as it. Oh no, it's the arrows, isn't it? That's not it. I'll leave that. No, I didn't. I joined in '97, so it's '98 by the time I came out training. And although Northern Ireland was still going on then, it was quietening down quite a lot. So there were people out here, and some of the people that I served with served out here, but there wasn't. It was nowhere near as like it was in the 70s or 80s. So there was a lot less people here, and I first came out here, I think in about 2011 was the first time I came out to Northern Ireland, and that was as a civvy. Yeah. Red teachers as well. Yeah, that's another point. I've seen things online. I've seen like Stand Up to Racism activists actually campaigning at school. I've seen them all doing Black Lives Matter things and things like that. I've not seen it personally, but I've seen it. They've shared it on social media, on schools' websites. You know that junior schools have got, or even infant schools, I think, have got like diversity officers and that to make sure that anyone who's not white's got a better chance than the white kids. And some of these schools that they're pushing all these lefty agendas in about white privilege, which is really we all know it's class privilege, not white privilege. They're pushing it in schools where whites are in a minority. So there's kids going to school where they're outnumbered by foreigners. I call them foreigners, but they're probably officially not called foreigners. But they're going to these schools, they're in the minority, and all these other kids are getting told that they've got an unfair advantage over them. It's absolutely sickening. I think in the future, people are going to look back, if there's still people left in the future, are going to look back on these times and think, what were they playing at? I lived in Paris barracks in 1986. All right, yeah, I've been past that a few times. My missus was in the UDR out here as well. She was in it, I think, for about 11 or 12 years. I think I probably got that wrong. I'm probably going to get shouted at tomorrow when she gets back. That's that there, yeah. Another interesting thing. Today's Pakistan Independence Day. Obviously, I won't be celebrating that one here, but all these Independence Days. I first picked up on it with a Jamaican one some years ago, but all these Independence Days, they're absolutely, well, I say all of them, most of them are actually quite ridiculous, because it's actually in India Independence Day tomorrow. I don't know why they don't celebrate the same day, because they both got independence at the same time when Britain left India and it broke up into separate countries. So immediately after Britain ceded Pakistan and India and Sri Lanka and all them other countries that were all part of the Indian subcontinent, or were part of British India, straight away they had like a civil war, and they was all killing each other. And I was checking, there's all different accounts about it. No one even knows how many people die. These people, when they get on a killing spree, I don't think they even keep count to any realistic measure, but it's genuinely believed that it was between 500,000 and 1 million people got killed in their fighting amongst each other with separation. Same as the Republic of Ireland, when the Irish Free State got independence from Britain, they decided to have a civil war, and a load of people got killed in that. But back to India and Pakistan, both countries still receive aid from Britain. They can't look after their people properly. And the same, I say the same people, obviously it's mainly their own people, but white liberals who celebrate Pakistan independence and Indian independence, Jamaican independence, all these other independence, they're the sort of people that slag Brexit off. You know, like, there's been problems with Brexit, mainly caused by politicians not wanting to deliver it and by Europe wanting to punish us. But we haven't had a civil war with, not yet anyway, and 500,000 or 1 million people killed. So it's completely hypocritical, just due to a few trade deals not going as well as they'd hoped, or have gone as badly as they hoped, should I say. They all want to just condemn Brexit. But compared to most of these other countries that have had civil war or famine or whatever else when they've got independence, Brexit's, well, I wouldn't say it's going well. It could be going a lot better, but it's the people haven't died like they have in India and Pakistan. Has anyone got any thoughts on India and Pakistan, or any of these other countries that celebrate their independence? I'm gonna have to do this with it. Same with this thing. It comes up on the screen. I'm sat miles away from my computer screen because of the dog. Plus, I should probably have glasses on. How do you change that? I don't know if you have to change it when you're outside of the. Intro, outro. Don't need any of that. Logos. This is actually in the comments thing. There's a way of altering the layout, and I've styles that a bit on it. Is that it? Let's try and change it. No, I don't want to do that. I'll do that. That's better. I'm doing something wrong here. I'll just have to keep leaning forward to have a look at what I'm reading anyway. So yeah, today's been the third day of the Ricky Jones trial. I'm sure everyone's aware who he is. He's the half caste guy who who at the Walthamstow protest, which was supposedly against the far right. As far as I'm aware, there was no planned protest there anyway, so they just turned up pretending there was going to be a protest to oppose a protest that wasn't going to be there, just so they could feel good about themselves. And according to Wayman and Bennett, one of the leaders of Stand Up to Racism, one far right guy turned up. I don't know who that was, but Bennett instructed one of the stewards to go and threaten him. So again, that doesn't look good for them. And then you've got this Ricky Jones character, and he's admitted to saying it, that he called for people to have their throats cut for supposedly sticking up National Front stickers with either razor blades or Stanley blades behind them. That's absolutely disgusting. His defence is that he didn't really mean it, but when you think like patriots, when we say things, when we tell the truth about things, when we point something out, if you point out the high levels of black muggers or Muslim terrorists or Jewish financiers or anything like that, and can provide facts to go with it, that's considered violence, because although you're not actually or I'm not calling for violence, and most people aren't calling for violence, although we're not calling for violence, supposedly somebody could hear that and decide to commit violence. But obviously we haven't intended it to mean it that way. And then they've got one of their own people literally calls for people to be murdered, but apparently was just in higher spirits or whatever. So hopefully he get found guilty. We'll wait and see. Nothing would surprise me these days, because people are sort of brainwashed in a way that to think of anyone who's non-white as a victim. So he might land up getting away with it. But I've been in contact with the police anyway. I can't remember if I might have said this last week, but I've been in contact with the police anyway, because he was claiming that there was razor blades behind stickers and between the seats on some C2C trains the day before the Walthamstow protest. And I've searched online news reports, things I've searched the RMT Twitter feed, I've looked on C2C's Twitter feed, and I can't find anything about razor blades, whether they're behind NF stickers or not, on these trains. So I'm assuming that he's completely made it up. So again, he should be in the same situation as Nick Lowles, or should I say he should be in the same situation that Nick Lowles should be in, rather than the same situation as Nick Lowles, where both of them, Nick Lowles claimed that people were throwing acid at Muslim women, and which is a kind of a Muslim thing to do, throw acid. It's not really a Western thing. I've not heard of any like white people throwing acid at people. It probably does happen. Probably get white Muslims doing it for all I know. But Nick Lowles claimed that, and nothing happened to him. And then this Ricky Jones fella, he's made this claim about the razor blades, and he said he'd received photographs and messages about it. Again, you would have thought they would have put it on their social media. You wouldn't have thought they'd just shared it amongst themselves and reported it to the police. But either he's made it up or someone else has made it up, but somebody should be getting done for spreading those false rumours at that time, in the same way that people have got done for claiming that the terrorist was a Muslim, when in fact I think he was some kind of voodoo thing or something, wasn't he? I think. I won't say his name because I don't like to use the name of terrorists, because they like to be known, don't they? So anyone who's committed a terrible act like that, like the ones who killed Lee Rigby and people like that, we know their names, but I prefer not to use them. We should be remembering the victims rather than the perpetrators. I'm only mentioning Ricky Jones's name because he's up in court at the moment, and B, because he's supposedly a respectable member of the trade unions and the Labour Party. So it'd be interesting to see what happens as well, because he's only suspended from the Labour Party, which, to be fair to them, you would expect them to wait for the results of the court case before making a decision about him. But we'll see if they expel him, or whether they just wait another couple of months and then quietly let him back in, because apparently he was told not to go to the protest, which he chose to ignore. So he had his own party telling him not to go. Just look at a couple of these comments. Yeah, Lowell should have been jailed 100%, definitely. The thing is, because they work with the state and they advise the state, and it's considered different when they do it. Same with all these stand up to racism people and things like that. The things Wayman Bennett's come out with over the years. During the lockdown, there was a black guy that was speeding, and the police pulled him over. He wouldn't cooperate with the police, and they landed up tasering him after giving him a reasonable amount of time to put his child down and be handcuffed, or whatever they wanted, and he resisted the police and he got tasered. And then that Wayman Bennett said that they tasered him because he was black. It's absolutely ridiculous. If he either hadn't been speeding or just cooperated with the police, he wouldn't have got tasered. So Wayman Bennett, he's another one who should be, in my opinion, he should be jailed, or at least not taken serious by anyone. I think the only people that take him serious are the unions. There's Mac there. He will walk while a white man will get years. I assume we're talking about Ricky Jones there. Yeah, Mac. I don't know whether he'll walk. What he'll probably do is he'll probably get time served, won't he? Because I think he did about, was it a month or 6 weeks or something at the time? Because he was arrested the following day, I think the 8th of August. So the 7th or 8th of August, whatever the following day was. And that was at the time when all the anti-immigration or anti-illegal immigration protesters were getting jailed. So I think the idea was they kept him in jail for a month so that they didn't look biased, because all of, I say our protesters, all the, you know what I mean by that, but all our protesters were getting told that they either had to plead guilty or they'd be on remand forever, which I'm sure if they knew that they'd only be on remand for a month or 6 weeks, that a lot of them would have probably pleaded not guilty, because a lot of people didn't. I saw a video by, I think it was Black Belt Barrister on YouTube, and or was it the other fella? One of these lawyer programs. I'll put a link to it in the description to the video of tomorrow or something. But they were saying that people would, because of the backlogs with the court things, someone could get remanded in prison, could be in prison for as long as they would have got. Say if the maximum sentence was a year, they could be in prison for a year or even a little bit more on remand, then go to court and get found not guilty and not get any compensation for being held in remand. So it's created a system where innocent people are incentivized to plead guilty. It's absolutely disgusting. But then you've got like Ricky Jones got bail, and he's now attending court. He's now attending court now. So let's hope he does get sent down. But I would have thought he'd either completely walk or he'd get a sentence and he'd walk with time served. But another thing to remember is as well that all the people that pleaded guilty at the time, a year ago now, theoretically they got a third off for an early guilty plea. So really, Ricky Jones should be getting, if found guilty, he should be getting 1.5 times as long as someone who committed a similar offence and pleaded guilty at the time. So we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see what happens with that. I'm not sure how many people watching this are National Front members or want to join the National Front, but we finally, I put my hand up. It's my fault. It took so long. I finally got the online payments up on the website. So if anyone does want to join, they can go to natfront.info, join, donate to join. We've only got the UK memberships up. We'll put the international ones up in a couple of weeks. But I just want to iron out any teething problems with that. So it should have been sorted out years ago, but I'm a pipe fitter by trade. I'm not from a computer background. So So someone who probably does things like that all the time would have had it sorted out ages ago. But I've got a bit more time on my hands. I've managed to get that sorted. So that's one of the good things about getting sacked. At least I can do a bit more on the National Front website, do a few more videos, hopefully get a protest or something organised, and try and get things going. What have we got here then? I have noticed the British humour is disappearing. Can we remember it and show the migrants they're not meant to be here? Yeah. As well as humour, you've got accents and that disappearing as well. The London accent's almost entirely gone. If you hear a London accent, that's most probably someone who's living in Essex or Kent or Surrey or somewhere. And that you go into most of London now, and hardly anyone's English. And the ones that are, I've probably lost quite a bit of my accent. Not so much from moving over to Belfast, but from working in London, where you have to try and speak very clearly because you're speaking to all different kinds of foreigners and speaking slowly. And again, with the humour, loads of things that would have obviously been a joke years ago, you'd probably get either sacked from work for it, or in fact, most jokes you'll get sacked from work for, I would have thought, nowadays. So I'm saying. Is Dave Hill still in the NF? I'm not. I don't actually know. I don't know that. These ones. Yeah, young white kids talking like they're from the hood. Again, that's it's kind of been encouraged. I've seen it. I've spoken to white school teachers in London who speak, not when I was at school, but like not even that recently, about 15 years ago, who speak like they come from the Caribbean, because it's sort of, even when I was at school, like the things that we'd get in trouble for, the black kids got away with, like being cheeky and things like that. And like Londoners pronouncing TH with an F, we'd get in trouble for that, and then the blacks would still be calling it the ting and all that, or however they speak, and kind of get away with it. So the white kids land up seeing it as being cool, and then you've got all kinds of authority figures and people on TV speaking like it. I think, as far as that's concerned, that's being done deliberately. That's basically the same thing about all the whites talking like they're black. Yeah, I remember once. This is probably over 20 years ago. I was a white guy tried to push in front of me getting on a train. I ended up pushing him over. I didn't mean to push him over. I pushed him and he fell over. But and he's jumped up and he started giving it all the large and in patois and that. And I said, I can't understand what you're saying. I speak English. And he goes, you're being racist and that. And I went, no. You're the one appropriating somebody else's language. I thought it was funny anyway. So he had the hump with that. Probably still more had the hump with falling over, I think. But that was a funny incident. Bring back the days of on the buses. Yeah, I quite liked on the buses. Old Jack and Stan. Apparently he committed suicide, didn't he? Jack, wasn't it? Jack was not Ollie's brother, but the other one who used to pull all the girls in that. Yeah, apparently when the show stopped, because he was a big star when that was on, I think when the show stopped, I don't think he had any more work, and I think he ended up committing suicide. So that's a bit of a tragedy. I think, like with acting and that, I think a lot of people must get that, where they've been in the same show for years and they kind of considered a big star, and then it all comes to an end when they when they land up leaving. That's it. I remember John Tyndall in the NF. That was before my time. That was before '82, wasn't it? When he left to start the new NF, which became the BNP. Yeah, I didn't actually join the National Front until 2012 when I was in the BNP before that, and when that was falling apart, Richard Edmonds and a few others had come back to the National Front, so I decided to follow them. So, okay. A few more people saying good evening to everyone who's just joined us, or is this might even be ages ago what I'm looking at. Reg Varney, yeah. Yeah, John Tyndall and Martin Webster in the NF, yeah. I've seen plenty of videos, and a lot of people have spoken about those days. I didn't know John Tyndall. I know Martin Webster from various other things, not from the National Front, because that was before my time that he was in as well. Blakey loved Hitler. Bring back Alf Garnett. that was another thing I used to debate with John Jones about when he was still with us. You got these programs like Alf Garnett and Love Thy Neighbour and things like that, and that's sort of taking the piss out of like patriotic people, because he always came across as a bit of an idiot, and it always went wrong for him, and he was seen as a bit of a bigoted fool, wasn't he, Alf Garnett? And he was a Jew himself, and he used to love really just to take the mickey out of our people. Whereas Citizen Smith, I used to prefer that because it made the commies look a bit more than a bit stupid. When he tried to have his revolution with about 4 people, and he used to keep threatening to put people up against the wall when he only had like 6 people in his gang or whatever it was. But I prefer that. But it's funny with that now. The actor from that, Robert Lindsay, I think he actually thinks he really is Citizen Smith now. Some of the stuff he puts up on it, or used to put up on X, I haven't seen him for a while. He might be another one who's boycotted it. But I think he actually now thinks that he actually is Citizen Smith. Richard Edmonds, top man. Yeah, he's sorely missed, Richard Edmonds. Absolute legend. From both his time in the NF the first time round, in the BNP, and the NF the second time round. The guy would always put everyone else first. Yeah, he's definitely one of the best, Richard Edmonds. Never heard a better speaker than I'll put that up. Never heard a better speaker than John Tyndall. I never actually saw him speak myself. I've watched plenty of his videos. I thought Richard Edmonds was a brilliant speaker personally. Oh, that's an important one there, Mac. Remind the viewers that we still march every year for Remembrance Sunday. So yeah, we'll be doing that. I need to start liaising with the police soon about that, but we will be marching the same as ever. As far as I'm aware at the moment, it's the same time for marching off, but I will confirm that for definite once I've liaised with the with the police. We're working on a couple of things. In fact, I'm going to phone you up, Mac, not tonight, but sometime soon. There's a few things we're sorting out for Remembrance Sundays. Hopefully, this one will be quite a bit bigger than it has been the past few years. So again, with more time on my hands, hopefully I can get a lot more things sorted out. There will be a day when we have to show our kids 70s and 80s TV programs to show what England really looked like. To be fair, we probably have to show ourselves that. Like sometimes, if I watch something like Minder or The Sweeney or even early Fools and Horses and that, and it seems a bit of a shock to see, even just to see people like smoking in pubs and things, seems completely alien. Even though I obviously grew up in that era and do remember it when I actually think about it, but it seems so sort of so long ago. They're not let Alf Garnett on the telly now. No. I remember seeing, and in fact, it's probably a long while ago I saw this. I saw a thing that like when all these streaming services came about, one of them had things on it, and a lot of the, is it the millennials or is it Gen Z? I don't know. Whoever it's probably millennials. Either millennials or Gen Z. They were complaining, and they were complaining about Only Fools and Horses and Friends. You know, the American show in New York, because they found that to be, I think it was homophobic or something. It's an absolute joke. It shows how fragile people are nowadays. If you think that just over 100 years ago, people were going over the top in trenches and getting shot at and blown up and things, and then now you've got kids that need counselling because they've seen a TV program that they don't like. God bless the brave nationalists from the past. 100%. Yeah, we've had some brilliant people over the years. Tony, have you heard the channel The Daily Agenda? Former BNP guy Simon. I think, yeah. Did someone mention this on the last? I don't know if it was you or someone else mentioned this on the last live stream. I think I watched a couple of them. Some of them are quite good. Some of what he says, I haven't watched everything that he puts out. Yeah, Warren Mitchell was Alf Garnett. Yeah. Simon Tomlin of the Daily Agenda. Yeah, I've watched. It's worth watching. I don't watch it all the time, but I have watched it. Apparently, he hasn't posted anything recently. I don't know how accurate that is. Tyndall and Morse were banged up for their views. Luckily, there were nationalist screws looking after them. Yeah, I dread to think what it's like now. I remember Richard Edmonds talking about when he was jailed, and it was a bit scary going in there at first, but then once they got settled in, and once the screws knew they weren't going to be walking around Zeke Highland, everything was fine, and the screws were fine with them. But I would have thought that was so long ago now. Although although it would have been accurate at the time, I don't think it would have been. I don't think it'd be so accurate now. No more brothers' wars. Yeah, 100%. Yep, Richard Edmonds and John Tyndall, great people, more heroes. Yeah, like I said, I didn't actually know John Tyndall personally, but Richard Edmonds definitely is one of my heroes. Hopefully there ain't Notting Hill Carnival this year. I think, is that coming out? Is it next weekend or is it the weekend after? What are we on now? The 14th. So I'm not sure what day the Monday falls on. It's either next weekend or the weekend after. I think not the Notting Hill Carnival. Whenever the bank holiday weekend is. I think Children's Day is the day when less people get stabbed, isn't it? How anyone can say that is mostly peaceful, because the police beforehand, they go around, they try and quell any problems before they kick off. So that anyone who's I don't know, got outstanding warrants or they think might be going to cause trouble at the carnival, they go and arrest them preeminently so that they're not about on the streets at the time of the carnival. Then they got all those knife barriers up there, so and they know well in advance that the knife barriers are going to be there, the metal detectors and things, to keep the trouble down, and it still kicks off. You even talk to white liberals who say that it's a lovely atmosphere, this, that, and the other. But you say, like, well, what time did you leave? And they left about 7:30 or something. They didn't stick around too late when they're all running around destroying it. And the people who live there, I don't know if it's improved in recent years with portaloos and things, but people getting excrement in their gardens and this, that, and the other. And the police, I don't know whether to condemn them or feel sorry for them, really, because that's the behaviour of some of them is absolutely disgusting. And in my opinion, most of it, they probably shouldn't be coppers anyway. And then any copper who wants to try and do a decent job, they wouldn't have the backup there. If they nicked one of them for a relatively minor offence, the kind of thing that one of us would get nicked for, then they'd probably end up losing their job over it. I think it was at the footage of the Notting Hill Carnival, probably like 15 or 20 years ago, was the first time I'd seen the police use like those column things where someone got arrested, and in order to get them to the police van, that loads of police just surrounded them. I think there's only one or two officers actually had arrested the fella or woman, I don't even know who it was. But then so that no one could either help them escape or stab them or whatever, they just formed like a column either side of them to march them to the police van. So it took about 30 coppers to march one person to a police van. And I think it's similar to when Tommy Robinson got nicked that time at a protest. And people said that 30 police nicked him when realistically it was one or two, but the rest were just forming a column around it. And the amount that policing operation must cost, and it, like the Notting Hill Carnival don't think it really brings anything financially to the economy. It's not as if like tourists come to see changing of the guard and this, that, and the other. And you probably get some tourists going to the Notting Hill Carnival, but I wouldn't have thought that, like, it wouldn't come anywhere near covering the cleanup operation, let alone the police, whatever that generates for the economy. And also, when it first started, I think it was back in the 50s. I think it had like some Ukrainians were involved in organising it as well, and it was meant to be a celebration of all different sorts of cultures. Not that I agree with that, but that's what it was originally. But now the other cultures have been pushed out, and it's now just an just a Caribbean culture. So it's actually less multicultural than it was 60 or 70 years ago, whenever it started. which again is the plan. All this multiculturalism, they just mean replacing white people. Some of these. Love Thy Neighbour, yeah, that was another similar one, wasn't it? I didn't so much watch that. I more watched Afghani than Love Thy Neighbour. I've mainly seen Love Thy Neighbour like on clips, WhatsApp and YouTube and whatever. Tony, it would be good if you mucked in on the open Twitter spaces. What is that? I'm not actually sure what that means. And Talking Pictures is a good channel for nostalgia. Warren Mitchell was a Jew. Yeah, I know that. Yeah. That's why when they first did it, they didn't have any lines digging out the Jews and that, and then he specifically asked for them to be put in there again to like make fools of us for not liking them. I think someone like Warren Mitchell most probably hated British people. Yep, agree with that. Tony Blair's father-in-law was in it. Yeah, it was Tony Booth, wasn't it? The Scouse git. Yeah. They should ban the Carnival untold trouble every year, stabbings and that. And I think when it comes, I think a lot of the problems they only include for the Notting Hill Carnival with their statistics. I could be wrong about it, so I apologise if I am. But I think they only include the statistics of people arrested actually at the carnival. They don't include they have carnival after parties that are sort of all around London. So they get loads more trouble than what's attributed to the carnival. I think I'll press something on there. Right, so we've been on there for nearly an hour now. Has anyone got anything else they'd like to talk about before we call it a day? All right, well, thanks for coming, everyone. Like I said, I'm going to try and make this a weekly live stream. I've got somewhere to go next Thursday, so I'll do it next Wednesday at 7:30, and then hopefully from the following week I'll be back to doing it Thursdays. But if anyone thinks there's a better time or day to be doing it, it's probably a bit late to comment in this now, but comment on my channel or whatever, and And then it ain't half hot, mum. That was another another funny one. Yeah. Again, with the puffy fella, that was seen as humour at the time, and again now it's become reality. It's like life imitating art. Me and the missus keep planning to watch the Steve Martin version of Bilko, and I remember watching that years ago, and it had they'd done a locker inspection, and the guy they opened, it was in the wrong room for whatever reason, and they opened the locker. It was meant to be this guy's locker, and there was a load of women's clothes in there. They asked him what was going on, and he said, "Sir, I believe the army are no longer allowed to ask me these questions." And then I think Dan Aykroyd says, "It's a changing army, we're all adjusting." Or sorry, someone else says it to him. But it's like that, like wearing women's clothes in the army was unthinkable when I was in, and generations before that would have probably been shot for it, and probably not shot, but a lot more serious. People was getting thrown out for being. Someone got thrown out for being a homosexual when I was in training. But like now, it's just completely acceptable. Well, to the authorities. Yeah, thanks very much, Mac, and thank you very much everyone else for coming on. So I'll schedule another live stream for 7:30 next Wednesday, and then from the following week it'll be back to Thursdays. Okay, then. Thank you very much, everyone. It's been a pleasure.